Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. So I want you to start by just thinking about the words you're hearing right now. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder how these specific sounds got their meaning? I mean, most of us operate under this very basic assumption, right? We assume that at some point in human history, a group of people just pointed at a tree and randomly agreed to call it a tree. But what if that's entirely wrong? What if the sounds we make aren't random at all, but are literally bound by the absolute laws of physics? Today, we're exploring a radically different paradigm derived from the work of Alam Sububay Al-Neely in his groundbreaking text, Unified Language. We are going to completely deconstruct the very fabric of human communication.
Here is exactly what we are putting on the board today. 1. The linguistic illusion. 2. The arbitrary principle. 3. Establishing the intentional principle. 4. The physics of sound. And 5. The unified linguistic reality.
Section 1. The linguistic illusion. How did words get their meaning? Well, to really understand Al-Neely's revolutionary theory, we've got to travel all the way back to ancient Greece. This debate over how words get their meaning is incredibly old. In fact, we find one of the earliest records of it in a fictional dialogue written by Plato, featuring Socrates and a guy named Hermogenes, debating a thinker named Creidelus.
And right here is the foundation of the linguistic illusion. Hermogenes argues that there is no name given to anything by nature, but only by habit and custom. He's basically claiming that words are just empty labels. We just invent them out of thin air, agree on them, and, that's it. According to the source text, this ancient idea fundamentally won out and ended up shaping human communication theories across the globe for centuries to come.
Section 2. The arbitrary principle, the flawed foundation. Let's fast forward a bit to the modern era, where we meet Ferdinand de Saussure. He's a famous linguist who took this ancient Greek assumption and formalized it into what is literally universally taught today.
Let's put this core concept on the board. Saussure called it the arbitrary principle. It dictates that the connection between a signifier, which is just the physical sound of a word, and the signified, which is the actual concept in your head, is completely random. Now, Al-Neely points out that Saussure himself actually admitted this principle is somewhat illogical, yet he built the entirety of modern linguistics right on top of it. So essentially, the accepted foundation of our language states that communication is completely random and chaotic at its core.
Okay, let's really dive into this. Al-Neely argues that treating language as random isn't just some harmless academic theory. It has massive, destructive consequences. Think about it. If words have no inherent meaning, then syntax becomes completely chaotic. We end up with multiple conflicting meanings for the exact same word, which is what we call synonyms and metaphors, concepts that Al-Neely heavily critiques. In critical, sacred, or philosophical texts, this destroys any sense of exactness. People can interpret texts however they want, and that fuels endless societal division, conflicting translations, and philosophical wars. It basically creates an environment where anyone can manipulate meaning to fit their own agenda.
Section 3. Establishing the intentional principle, Al-Neely's radical shift. Right, we have now arrived at the absolute core of our explainer. Enter Alam Sububay Al-Neely and his foundational theory, Ta'sis al-Mabda al-Qasti. Let's break down that original Arabic phrase real quick. Ta'sis means establishing the ultimate foundation, and Qasti means intentional or purposeful. So he is literally establishing the absolute, undeniable purpose behind every single sound.
Just look at the sheer scale of this paradigm shift. On one side, we have the old world, the arbitrary principle, viewing language as this void filled by human invention. But on the other side, we have Al-Neely's intentional principle. This principle argues that meaning is inherent, it's physical, and it absolutely exists in nature before humans ever even use it. You don't invent meaning, you discover it.
Let's write down the main idea here on our virtual board, because this is absolutely crucial. The intentional principle states that every single sound, every individual letter, possesses an absolute, pre-existing physical value. It carries an inherent movement before it ever links up with another letter to form a word. Sounds are not just empty vehicles waiting to be filled with societal agreements. No, they are loaded with absolute, inescapable physical reality. When you speak a sound, you are literally recreating a physical movement that already exists in the universe.
Section 4. The physics of sound, the painter's canvas analogy. To truly grasp how this inherent value works in practice, Al-Neely provides a brilliant analogy to counter the arguments of arbitrary linguists. They often like to compare language to a painter's canvas, but Al-Neely flips their argument completely upside down.
And this brilliantly illustrates the divide.
Arbitrary theorists say a color has no real value until it's placed on a canvas to form a shape. But Al-Neely argues the exact opposite. Green has an inherent, unchangeable value. Green is green before the canvas even exists. When the painter uses green, the color gives the tree its truth on the canvas. If the color had no inherent value, the painter could just paint the sky red and the grass blue randomly, and it wouldn't matter at all. Similarly, a sound has an inherent physical meaning before it ever forms a word.
Let's map out how a word is actually built under this intentional system. Step 1, you have the inherent physical value of the first sound. Step 2, you introduce the physical movement of the second sound. In Step 3, the word becomes a unified, intentional action. It's not a random agreement, it's a physical sequence of events, almost like a chemical formula. If you change a single sound, you literally change the physical trajectory of the action.
Let's put some specific examples from the source text onto the board to make this crystal clear. Take the letter R, or Ra. Al-Neely states its physical movement is ordered repetition. Think of a pendulum swinging. The letter D, or Dal, represents an inner drive or a push forward to a limit. And the letter M, or Meme, represents growth and completion, bringing a movement to its fullness. When you combine these letters into words, you aren't making up meanings. You are stacking these absolute physical movements together to describe an exact action in reality.
Section 5. The unified linguistic reality. Order from chaos. Let's look at the grand implications of this whole thing. What actually happens when we stop treating language like a chaotic social experiment and start treating it like the physical reality it is?
So the crucial point is this: the unified reality changes everything. It turns language into an exact science, just like physics or chemistry. It totally eliminates the concept of false synonyms, because no two different sequences of physical sounds can possibly mean the exact same thing. It reconnects human intention with natural law, anchoring our speech in absolute reality. And most importantly, according to Al-Neely, it resolves ancient philosophical and textual disputes that rely on just twisting words to mean whatever a person wants them to mean.
I want to leave you with this final thought. We've spent our whole lives thinking we are the masters of the words we invent. But if Al-Neely's intentional principle holds true, and every single sound we make carries an absolute, inescapable physical intention derived from the universe itself, what are we really saying when we speak? Are we just making noise, or are we literally echoing the physics of creation with every single breath? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning everything you think you know.